Paper Rex, a name that is loved and adored by Valorant fans across the globe. Paper Rex have been the pinnacle of Asian Valorant alongside DRX for the last 2 years. Whether it be their Wgaming style, their wacky AF team comps,
across the stage, I need you to pick the
or their crazy good, always in demand but always sold out jerseys, Paper Rex have become the sweethearts of Valorant. But this sweetness that you see on their faces of their players are as misleading as you can think, because when they hit the servers, well...
Oh my god, what this guy's insane!
Closes out the game! Absolutely sensational! 13 to 10 for Paper Rex!
They've had their ups and downs throughout the last 2 years of Valorant, but they've managed to steal everyone's hearts in this period of time while showcasing how deadly they can be. And now, they've come rising from the ashes to win the VCT Pacific in the most Paper Rex fashion possible. Is it their time to finally win an international event? This is the rise, fall and rise again of Paper Rex. PRX have been one of the most dominant forces of Valorant in Asia and across the planet as well. From the minute they had the core 5 signed of Benkai, Davai, Mindfreak and the world's most loved duelist duo Jing and Forsaken, they were looking like an unstoppable force with fire on their behinds to just demolish anything that comes on their way while having fun. They were the fan favorites on multiple occasions just because everyone loved these guys for the way they play and for just how they are just themselves. They play the game because they have so much fun doing so. And even when the odds are stacked against them, PaperX never really had that much of a stress on themselves because they knew what they were doing. Their playstyle is what sets them apart. Ultra high speed chaos stability mode. These baby-like looking monsters drove teams like Fnatic.
Look out! He just TP'd right behind! Enzo has fallen for the trickery once again!
And even the great Optic Gaming.
Oh, another ult. Forsaken's going crazy.
Rolling Thunder was there and Paper Rex cleaned him up.
Crazy with the pace at which they play and the amount of stability they have in executing these high pursuit strategies. But they weren't always like this though. PRX made their first ever international debut back when Jing wasn't signed yet. They had Shiba on their roster still and things went all wrong for them at the VCT Masters Berlin 2021 where they bowed out of the group stages itself, losing to Vision Strikers and Supermassive Blaze. PRX had promise but were missing just one final piece of the puzzle to make them a whole. The following month, Jing enters the playing field of Paper Rex, and with his entry and the new year, Paper Rex became a mammoth in the APAC. They absolutely blew out the competition in the VCT MYSG, destroying Bleed and in the VCT APAC Challengers where they beat their biggest competitor, Xerxia. They were the first seed from APAC going into the VCT Masters 1 Reykjavik 2022, where they were looking at their absolute best. Their wacky strats and absolutely in-your-face agent comps were making a lot of teams uncomfortable. This is where we saw the true powers of Paper X coming out. Because this is where they slapped the infamous guard with a Reyna.
Side player, the two that remain, Trent's fallen. It all falls onto side player with the op. It's not gonna happen. The Reyna continues to cause problems.
And then had Forsaken do this.
Left side. Does manage to
And this.
Oh, well, with Forsaken.
And this.
I don't know about where the move would be at. You can still see it. They want to shoot it, but Forsaken's...
Oh, and also this.
Shot it. They know that they're coming. Forsaken with another kill, and Benkai tucked in the corner. How does Forsaken get away with that? He was so low, and a third is found as well. That's utterly unreasonable.
With a little bit of this.
The ult out of Forsaken, confirming exactly where he is. He hears the steps. The flash is hell. Oh, Meadow gets away with the first. Forsaken has to take him down, and he does. A 4th kill for this man. Just flexes on him at the end. You can understand it after a round like this.
To a team like G2 with Yoru in a lower bracket survival match of an international event, making it one of the most extraordinary games we've ever seen on the map of Bind from any team, let alone with a Yoru. It was a peek into how crazy and how good this team can be even with the most laughable agents. While yes, they were looking at their peak, unfortunately their run was stopped by the Cinderella story of Zeta Division, who absolutely sat down that Reyna and Jet combo on Haven and made sure that the double duelist did not work on Split either. Paper X finished 4th, but they showed potential for a lot more than that. People were taken aback seeing how good they can actually be. And Paper X knew that themselves too. Going back home, they were again going through their regional and APAC challenges, where this time they absolutely tore through the competition more than they ever have. It was as if someone had lit a fire in them and all they could see and want was international glory. Out of the 17 matches that they played in the APAC to qualify for Masters Copenhagen, Paper X lost just 1 game and a total of just 5 maps across 17 best of 3s. Which included a 3-0 beating of Xerxia in the APAC Challenger finals. They were primed and ready. Paper X went in not just as Asian favorites this time, but as the whole tournament favorites to possibly win the whole damn thing. They beat teams like Guild Esports,
So much pressure on him. He swings through and he just cannot come up with it.
Fnatic,
Jing's gone. He's sending it again. The reveal's huge. Jing's got 2. That play has been teased again and again. And finally,
2-0 while actually making it look pretty easy with their same old crazy comps, and also went ahead to beat Optic, one of the best in the world, 2-1. That match is one they enjoyed with pride and joy because beating Optic back then was not easy. They had the dream run to the finals, beating some of the best ever of Valorant and sitting pretty waiting for FPX to come join them. While CS FPX were coming off of a great momentum from the lower bracket, beating everyone in their way, Paper X were the favorites going into this one. Everyone wanted the APAC Kings to finally find their international throne, but it wasn't meant to be. While the match was very closely fought by both teams, picking up 1 map after the opponent, Breeze was going to decide it all. When it was about to start and Paper X showed the world a comp on Breeze that you'd never even think of using in a ranked game,
Tournament, keep your eyes peeled on whether we are going to get a Yoru. I'm quite vigilantly on Yoru watch right now, and things are already shaking up a little.
Artist goes into a jet. Jing is going to come in on the
you
neon
wanted
as
him
well.
to move, Baller. You wanted him to move, but did you want him to move that fast?
What is this comp?
Wait, which seat? Which seat?
These guys right here. Neon Yoru, Breach.
They got no Viper. They got no Viper. There's so much insanity here.
everyone was half in love with them for trying this and half wondering how in the hell can they pull this off with that comp. While for some parts it looked good for them, in the end,
As well. This is where things start to get very dangerous. Incredibly dangerous, but still Forsaken performing under the pressure. To get to aims, the reset. Absolutely ridiculous. And what a play. 4 kills for the final blow.
Heartbreak. FPX were too strong. Paper X felt it in their gut. It was definitely a hard loss knowing that they were that close to lifting that illustrious Masters trophy. But they still took it with a smile and they were happy knowing that they made it that far but were going to come back and try again in Champions. Teams all across the world knew that Paper X now weren't just a bunch of teenagers trying to find a way with out-of-the-box comps and strats. They were ridiculously good. But then something changed. A fall lay ahead for Paper X that no one expected. Come Champions, everyone was looking at teams like FPX, Optic, Paper X, DRX to be the top dogs. Paper X were placed in a group with a rise in form team Liquid, a strong Leviathan and a newly added Chinese team EDG. They started their campaign well by beating EDG 2-1 in the way that we know best, but Leviathan blew them out of the water and even beat their unique bind comp, which now started to become a little predictable. And when it came to the decider 2, Team Liquid beat the APAC Legends right when they needed it the most.
A 5v1 to keep your tournament life alive, to keep the year alive, and nothing is found.
Paper X bowed out of the group stages itself of the last champions before the VCT partnered leagues. It was shocking to most, but PRX seemed like they were out of their element by a mile. Their opponents started finding particularly specific counters to their moves and made them work. A 9th-12th finish was unprecedented. Their year was over with them bowing out of champions. But this was the start of a rough patch for them. After the VCT franchise leagues were announced and everything was set to begin, they bought in cigarettes, but that wasn't enough. They went to lock in at Sao Paulo with the same roster to showcase what they've got, but absolutely got knackered by Cloud9. A game that looked far too much out of control for PaperX. It seemed like they were a shadow of their previous selves. No one really thought that would happen because the match wasn't even close. C9 sent them home in dominating fashion with a message on the back of it as well.
It's done. It is over. C9 have destroyed PaperX, sent them home packing.
But because DRX loved their APAC brothers, they took a sweet bit of revenge for them.
That probably is a part of it. New meta, new maps. No way, man. Oh no!
This was the lowest point of PRX's history so far. They looked like they were absolutely out of their individual and original elements that we've seen them have before. A change was needed, and it was needed before the VCT Pacific season began. There was this guy though, roaming around the servers of Japan. A Russian who apparently made people's spines tremble when he faced them on the server. He was a god or something. I don't know the difference between the two anymore. They got something to join their roster and were looking to increase their firepower more than what they already had in Jing and Forsaken. Now the team looked absolutely cracked, but they wanted to test their waters first. Whilst they practiced with him in the background, the league started with the OG playing 5 of PaperX. They took DFM down pretty easily 2-0, but their form started running awry in the first few games. They lost to a very solid Team Secret 2-1.
The IGL left on his lonesome. He will die alone in the alley. Dubstep finds 3 as Team Secret will take this matchup, a battle of SCA.
And then they realized that a change is needed ASAP. In comes something, out goes Benkai. The next game against T1, something on Jet, Forsaken on Killjoy, they do this.
Lurking up above here, knives drawn. Just on the other side of intro, it connects. A knife reset is in. Oh my god. No, don't worry, he's already dead.
Nobody gets the kill off of the point. What is going on?
I can't follow this. I can't follow this.
Okay, but because they took control of backside, this is
Never mind. Forsaken.
Forsaken brings it back.
Forsaken.
He's going for another one. 2 aces.
A 13-3 in the first map of Pearl, and then bring back Benkai for Fracture and still beat them 13-6 with Forsaken and Mindfreeing taking over the fragging reins. Their next opponent though was the toughest of them all, DRX. And while PaperX was still going through their settling stages of the playing 5, DRX beat them pretty comfortably in a match that seemed to show that PaperX are really vulnerable at that moment. But PaperX were learning even during this. They eventually went with the ropes of something being way too powerful to let him sit on the sidelines and stop their playing 5 exploration. Benkai was on the bench while something took his place and Devai was to lead the team now. This was sealed against Global Esports when on the first map of Icebox they brought in cigarettes for his debut but lost to them horribly. And Devai came back on stage and PaperX dominated to win in comeback fashion. From there, the role changes started settling in. Forsaken now embraced being a flex player while Something took the charge of being the cold-blooded assassin. Game after game, Something was doing something absolutely insane that made everyone realize that this guy is a goddamn monster. Their playing 5 was sealed and they went ahead to beat everyone else since the loss to DRX. PaperX were 3-2 at that point in the group stage and were looking vulnerable and turned it into a second place finish with a 7-2 record right under DRX. They headed to the playoffs with probably the best selves yet as they had only 2 matches to win to get to the finals and make it to Masters Tokyo. They beat T1 in a very competitive game where Forsaken showed why it doesn't matter what agent he plays, he's the freaking GOAT.
Doesn't work out. Munchkin takes his head off as the dog comes in, and Forsaken will play off of that. All gonna go. They got the harbor wall up as Forsaken is holding it down. The guy gets one, and Forsaken is still alive. They have to push him.
Their next opponent, DRX again. Their biggest rivals, hot off of a great win against Team Secret. Most people thought, yeah, DRX are gonna win this one. They've beaten PaperX before, it should be a 2-0. But little did anyone know what was going to happen because PaperX, ladies and gentlemen, were a brand new, unstoppable, absolutely fired up team. They tore apart Fracture with their rising speed in every game, where even if one person is not having a good day, the others are stepping up, and on Fracture, it was Jing. When Bind entered the map pool again, a lot of people were wondering if Paper X were going to mess around with the Yoru again, but this time, no, it was the Reyna in something's hands. A self-reliant killing machine agent like Reyna in a self-reliant killing machine player like something in a team like Paper X with high-speed plays where you just keep running at your opponents and kill them. It was a match made in heaven. Paper X beat DRX while basically toying with them. They were laughing and having fun. It seemed almost too easy for them. DRX and Korea were stunned, beaten, and quite frankly embarrassed on their home turf. Something and Forsaken carried this team with a Reyna and a Harbor, and of course Something finished the series off and took to the grand finals with a kill from his beloved Shorty.
Buzz will not let that happen. He's going to spray the body out of frustration, and he's going to get shortied for the final kill of the 2-0. Paper X booked their ticket directly to the grand finals here at VCT Pacific. They earn all those bonuses, and even more than that perhaps.
They were into the grand final and waited for DRX to join them again. This time, DRX were coming in a lot more serious than before. They learned from their previous matchup against Paper X and were ready for anything. And it seemed like that for the first two maps. The same Fracture that Paper X were looking far too good on was turned around in a massive way by the Koreans. They made the change of getting RB back on the Neon from Jet, which was a massive improvement off the bat because RB was a lot more comfortable and confident, and it paid off well with the rest of the team performing as well. With good momentum, they found the first map 13-6 and went ahead to Ascent with the same momentum. Although Paper X had the chance to settle the second map in their favor, being 12-10 up, DRX were just too strong with their fundamentals. It took them to overtime.
RB gets another. 3 for him, the lockdown now online.
And forced a win, making them go 2-up in the series, leaving them only one map away from taking revenge and holding the VCT Pacific trophy in their hands.
3-4. Mindfreak tipping back into the site, but the dart reveal from Zest is too damn good, but so is Forsaken and Jing. They find two. The swing out. Buzz drags his crosshair out. Gets the fourth. Is he on for the ace? He sends out the right click. He gets a little bit of a connection. It takes him low. The shorty in hand. Swings the corner. And Buzz will get yet another ace this weekend. Less than a...
Buzz fought off a very strong Something and Jing combo and won with the crowd going crazy for them. But the fight wasn't over. When everyone thought this was done and dusted, DRX were going to take this 3-0, that's exactly when Paper X decided to turn it up a notch. They weren't giving up just yet. They came into Lotus and it seemed suddenly as if everything changed. Completely. Jing, Something, Mindfreak were wreaking havoc across the map, and DRX as a team just seemed to be shut off completely. They couldn't counter. They couldn't stop the brute force of Paper X's aggression both on attack and defense, and lost Lotus with a slapping 13-3 scoreline. Paper X showed why they are still one of the very best. From that point onwards, the whole team of PRX was showing up. There wasn't just one player who was going crazy, fagging out of their minds. It was a composed and collected team that knew that they could turn the series around and become the first ever VCT Pacific champions. Their teamwork, playing off of each other while staying true to their ultimate aggression quality, was a shining aspect for everyone to see, admire, and learn from. And one more, Something's Reyna dominated Bind map later.
The spike and catches Mako. Dashing forward, Something holding the line, takes the dismiss once again. Untouched, counter swings back out, finds RB, Divide gets Zest. He looks for a bit more, and Something, he is not satiated, he is not going to be denied. Forsaken this time doesn't. This could just be it. The orbital strike is available. Mindfreak drops down the smoke. The heal comes in. Forsaken will have him. And surely that is it. And it is. Divide will be the one to drag them over the line. 13-6. A reverse sweep in a 5-map set. Paper X are inaugural VCT Pacific champions. We have crowned a new king.
The unthinkable. To see DRX drop 3 maps after going 2-0 up. Unimaginable. Beaten, bested, and destroyed. Paper X. The connoisseurs of chaos. The strength of Singapore. The conquerors of the Pacific. A rise like none other. From the dreaded champions exit in 2022 to winning the VCT Pacific League now, they have taken their throne once again. This time on a bigger stage, and will go on to Masters Tokyo with the world watching them, looking to them to destroy teams yet again, but with the same fun-loving personalities that brings out those innocent yet dangerous smiles on their faces. Is it finally time for Paper X to rule the world at this Masters at Tokyo? We'll find out soon enough. Until then, don't forget, the best way to play is Wgaming.
The crowd feeling it. Yay, outnumbered. And it's not going to happen. History books have a finite amount of pages. And Paper X's story is not done yet.